Patriots, Rams. Going through what y'all need to know to make some money on this bitch. All right, so let's do the picks real quick. We got a spread of 5, the Rams favored at home in Los Angeles, and a over/under set at 44. So I'm actually pretty strongly going to be on the Patriots +5 here. It's not like a lock, but I feel pretty good about it, and I'm actually going to be picking them to win. That itself, the money line, there's price and value on it. I wouldn't take that necessarily, but pass +5, all good. And as far as the over/under goes, don't I would say don't touch it. I'm going to be on the side of the under, but there's so much potential in this game for dumbass turnovers that lead pretty quickly to points and like consistently. That it's just absolutely not worth touching. So if you're gonna bet on anything, Pats +5, which I actually feel pretty good about. But other than that, the second, like I said, if you want to bet the Pats money line, I think it's fine, but I wouldn't necessarily do it myself. So stick around. I'll explain how and why that's how it would go down. So first we got the Pats offense versus the Patriots defense. So or obviously not, versus the Rams defense. So first thing, I just want to point out, Bill Belichick still fucking memeing everybody. Another this week, another 14 players declared questionable. And at this point, they're like the same players every week, and they play like every time. So I'll mention them, but as far as I'm concerned, actually they're all gonna play. And none of them outside of a few are like important enough for me to care anyway. So on the offensive side, it is Shaq Mason, guard, questionable. Cam Newton, technically questionable. Fullback Jacob Johnson, questionable. Starting tight end Ryan Izzo. They all were questionable last week except for Cam, I think, and they all played. And the week before, and they all played. So I'm just gonna assume they all play. Nothing on the Rams side. So when you talk about offensive line versus defensive line in the run game, so a lot of times you kind of get into, especially recently this last week, a bunch of like weaknesses versus weaknesses, and the tie this I think always goes the offense in scenarios like that. Here it's a strength, it's a really good offensive line versus really good defensive line, which is interesting. Now I think that it actually ends with the same result where the tie goes to the offense, but you'll see, especially on the interior, there's going to be a lot of push of plays where the Pats do get the better of the Rams, and there's going to be plays where Aaron Donald and Michael Brockers in the backfield like that because Shaq Mason, David Andrews, Joe Tooney, all really good. But again, Rams defensive line, Sebastian Joseph Day, Michael Brockers, A'Shawn Robinson, really strong, really stout, and Aaron Donald will beat Shaq Mason quickly in this game at times. Shaq Mason is notably prone to losing balance, getting thrown off balance right away at the line of scrimmage. That's going to happen against Aaron Donald in this game. Now, it's not going to be limited. Shaq Mason's 1,000 times better than a lot of other players. But I just wanted to mention that. And as far as the edges go, Michael Onwenu's still really good edge blocker, even or tackle run blocker. Jermaine Illuminor, I overrated him. I think at the beginning of the year, went back after last week and looked, and he is okay, but I can see why earlier in the year when his kind of injury stuff first started popping up, they went with Justin Herron, who is the like swing tackle right now. And you'll see in this game that I think the edge is going to be pretty neutral because the Rams edge defenders, they are good against the run, absolutely. Leonard Floyd, Samson Ebikeem, and even Terrell Lewis has shown some to at least be he's a fucking big dude as edge defender, so he's tough to move. So I think those are going to be mostly neutral. So then on the second level, this is where I'm worried about the Rams. So last week they got away with basically playing one linebacker, Troy Reader, the whole game. They will not do that. Not just cannot, they will not because of the Patriots offensive personnel do that this game, which means you're going to see, I'm guessing, a whole lot of Kenny Young. So Troy Reader, I actually kind of like. I watching that Cardinals game, I was really impressed. But I will say he has not been tested by any meaningfully good run game so far at all. The Cardinals are trash at running the ball. And I can't off the top of my head remember who we played before that, but they weren't anything special either. The 49ers with offensive line injuries, so because they actually are good at running the ball. So I suppose that's interesting. But he wasn't like great in that game, and that was also his first game. So like I said, I don't want to put too much bad or good on that. But Kenny Young is not very good, and if he's on the field for almost 100% of snaps, you're going to see a bunch of problems come up for the Rams. Now, he's not that bad either. But I think the overall run game, then, given that that's those circumstances for the Pats, is going to be okay. I'm not going to go great because, like I said, the Rams' defensive line is too good, and without real control of the edges, It's hard to have a run game that's consistently really good, but they're going to be all right. And I do think there's going to be some plays where, yeah, Kenny Young really gets the Rams in trouble. And Troy Reader, too. Like, I'm not going to act like he's perfect either. So you talk about the pass game. So edge rush first. Aaron Donald, huge problem as always, but this is about as limited as you're ever going to see Aaron Donald. He's still going to be really good, especially for Shaq Mason, like I said. But Joe Tooney and David Andrews are fantastic, and they're the exact type of player. I mean, probably the top two like interior combination I would pick to block Aaron Donald in the NFL. And the other Rams interior rushers, while normally they can overpower people, not here. Michael Brocker's not good enough as a pass rusher to do that. And on the edges, I mean, the Pats tackles aren't very good at pass blocking, which was a mistake I kind of made in the last Pats game. But, or sorry, 2 Pats games ago when they played the Cardinals. But here, I mean, Leonard Floyd is just whatever. And Samson Ebukam is even worse than that. Now, they are both, and this is something that really helps the Rams, they're both really disciplined on the edge. And you'll see that when Aaron Donald chases people out of the pocket, they're going to be there. And that's going to be the case here. So, like, could Leonard Floyd have 2 sacks in this game? Yes. But are they going to be, like, really relevant to the outcome of the game? I doubt it. And or are they going to be because of him? No. So, not a ton of pass rush, but, I mean, there will be a little bit. Then you talk about the receivers. Now, again, this is just terrible from the Patriots from the receiver perspective. Rams cornerbacks are really incredibly good, and the Pats can't separate from like even okay secondaries. Jacoby Myers, I like him in some matchups. Not here. Troy Hill, the slot corner from the Rams, really good. Damiere Byrd, again, I also like him in some matchups. Not against Darius Williams. And N'Keal Harry, I mean, that guy will not separate to save his fucking life against Jalen Ramsey. Ain't no chance. Jalen Ramsey, like, meaningfully affects DeAndre Hopkins. N'Keal Harry is oh, man. But I will say, I just want to mention this because I want to get out ahead of it because I think it's going to happen at some point in this game. N'Keal Harry is legit after the catch, and can be legit at the catch point. He's had a little bit of drop issues, but I also see make real catches there. So I would bet because of how small Troy Hill and Darius Williams are that at some point he's going to make a catch contested and then break a tackle and go for some amount of yardage. Now, is that super relevant to the outcome of the game? Probably not, but I just wanted to mention that. So, yeah, then you get to the next step, which is the quarterback versus the defense. And Cam Newton, not a good passing quarterback at this point. He's going to be a cause of the Patriots failing to move the ball well in this game for sure, as he is in every game. But I will say there are things about Cam that I actually like about this game. He has shown that he actually deals with interior pressure better than a whole lot of other quarterbacks in the NFL. And being the Rams' almost exclusive source of main pass rush in this game is from the interior, I think he's actually be okay. And while his outside options are trash in this game, 1, Josh McDaniels, not stupid. He'll find ways to compensate for that. 2, and this is where I'm going to mention this, James White. I think James White could just go off this game. Not necessarily in terms of like yards per play effectiveness, but in terms of racking up receptions. Because you look at who would, in whatever given defense the Rams run, right? You look at who would be guarding him, and they are not going to be able to match up with him because it's likely going to be Troy Reader or Kenny Young or one of their safeties. Maybe John Johnson can do it. He would be their best option, but he's needed deep too. Jordan Fuller's not enough of an athlete. I really think you see James White go off. Now, is he going to get the snaps for it? Maybe not. Pats might dedicate themselves to running the ball. I hope they don't, because I think really their only chance at meaningful ball movement is James White. But yeah, with Cam though, again, he's just a self-limiter, but his rushing does help. So then you talk about the overall pass game. Like I said, it's just going to be mediocre probably at best. Maybe James White raises the floor of that if they use him, which they should, but we'll see if they do. And then you talk about the red zone. There, Cam helps again, and James White helps, and them being able to run the ball helps because they're just good at it. But them just completely like the Rams being able to just island both sides of both receivers on either side is just bad. I'm sure the Pats will run heavy and ignore that, or get around that. But I just want to mention that. So then so I have them at a points range of 13 to 20 as far as offensive points go. So you talk about the Rams offense versus the Pats defense, offensive line wise. Injuries first. Again, on the Patriots, 1,000 players questionable. Adam Butler, Lawrence Guy, Jonathan Jones, J.C. Jackson, Kyle Duggar, Juwan Bentley, all questionable. all played last week. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume they all play this week too. So yeah, offensive line. I mean, the Rams' offensive line is bad. They looked better earlier in the year against bad teams, but you saw like when they played the 49ers, they're rough, and they've had other games like that too. And listen, Adam Butler went fucking bananas last game when they played the Chargers against a similarly bad interior offensive line. So I'm not going to assume he goes that crazy again, but he's something. And Lawrence Guy too. Lawrence Guy is shown to be able to beat subpar offensive lines. And I kind of like Cowart, the backup too, that they play sometimes in that respect. The Pat's nose tackle or defensive lineman. So you're not talking about a lot of control from the interior of the Rams. On the edges, same thing. Chase Winovich, John Simon both play the edge like better than reasonably. And I think you're going to see issues, especially I talked about it in my last Rams preview that Joe Noboom, not an NFL tackle, which is true. Now, he wasn't quite as bad when I watched the film from this last game as I maybe expected him to be, but he still wasn't good. And so you're going to see that the Rams just don't have rushing advantages on the line of scrimmage. And on the second level, there the Rams at least have some advantage because the Rams really depend on being able to misdirect linebackers, and the Patriots linebackers aren't very good, but they're not bad in the way that the Rams kill necessarily. They're more bad because they lack athleticism, which especially Juwan Bentley. Trez Hall, too. They've been playing. The practice squad guy has been up for a little bit. But Rams are going to struggle to reach that point. And the key difference here, so I think their overall run game is just going to be, I mean, it's just going to be like okay at best. There's going to be a little, like some flashes of chunk plays because the Pats, like front seven just isn't all that athletic. But the difference between them here versus when the 49ers played the Pats and the 49ers killed the Pats, if you remember, is the 49ers have a legitimately good offensive line, including good run blocking tight ends. Whereas the Rams are bad offensive line, although they're not a disaster, but they're not good. And their tight ends are not real run blockers either. So you're going to see, they're not going to have down-to-down success. So then you talk about the pass game. Pass rush, I think you're really, so the Rams are going to generate, the Pats are going to generate a lot of pressure just from their scheme. That's how they do things. And I think you're going to see something really similar. And this is another game that sets a precedent for this game of the Rams playing the Dolphins early in the year when Jared Goff had 4 turnovers. And as far as pass rush goes, I think it's going to be something similar. Now, the Pats, again, as I kind of mentioned a lot, normally they don't have the athletes to beat guys one-on-one, but here they might even. Chase Winovich, Josh Uche, who I should mention, was like pretty damn impressive last week. Maybe he's getting more and more into action. Like, they might be able to win one-on-one, and if you give that to the Patriots, that gets real tough. So then you talk about the receivers, and again, Robert Woods is good enough to separate from anyone, including Stephon Gilmore, but it's not going to be consistent. He's going to be limited to a point, and Cooper Kupp is going to be fucking terrible in this game. Now, can he get like play action sitting in space, short on a play action play? Sure, he probably will, almost certainly will, but like downfield, he will not consistently separate in this game under any circumstance versus J.C. Jackson, Jason McCourty, Jonathan Jones, whoever follows him. Maybe they put Stephon Gilmore on him, and then he's really fucked. And then same with John Rowan, too, who's just like worse Cooper Kupp down the field in terms of not being able to separate. And the Pats throw 4 great corners out there. And then you talk about the quarterback versus the defense. And listen, Jared Goff sucks against complicated defenses. It's pretty much proven at that point. I mean, you look at the Patriots in the Super Bowl a couple years ago when the Rams got absolutely blown out by the Ravens. When earlier this year the Rams played the Dolphins, who run an identical defensive scheme, and Jared Goff had 4 turnovers. Now those were kind of unlucky, I will admit, but like there's a reason that Jared Goff consistently underperforms against complicated defenses, and his tools are really limited here without a positive O-line matchup and without receivers who are going to win outside of Robert Woods. There's just a lot of issues. So the overall pass game, I think it's gonna be okay because I don't want to overrate the Patriots' individual pass rushers. And like I said, Robert Woods is really good, and the tight ends at least have like some positive help here. But and then once they get to the red zone again, I mean McVay helps a lot there, but Jared Goff you need good quarterback play a lot of times to have consistent red zone success, which Jared Goff is just not. And without them being able to dominantly run the ball, I'd be worried about touchdowns too. So I have them at a point spread of 10-17. So that leads me, like I said at the beginning, that I feel pretty good about the Pats plus 5 because I really think they're going to win this game. Now I'm not going to go out and guarantee or anything because the Patriots offense could still be really, really dumb. But the reason I don't say the under is a lock, despite the point ranges I gave, is because I just think there's way too much chance of like multiple defensive scores or near defensive scores that kind of just fuck that up and make the game look like higher scoring. Same way, like the Dolphins scored what they had a punt return touchdown, but they also had a fumble return for a touchdown, and same way that the Ravens scored, like I said a couple years ago when they blew the Rams out, or was that last year? Anyway, way too much chance of defensive scores, which is never something you bet on, but it's not something in this game I want to bet against. So Pats plus 5, pretty strong, and that is Patriots Rams.